In June 2025, Israeli jets shattered Iran's air defenses. By spring 2026, American B-2s had cratered Fordo, Natanz, and the deep mountain facilities that Tehran spent 2 decades building. By every visible measure, it was a triumph. Iran's nuclear program lay in ruins. Its missile arsenal had been hollowed out. Its proxies were silent. And yet, in quiet briefing rooms across the Pentagon, senior officials were not celebrating. They were counting interceptors, counting tomahawks, counting the missiles that had vanished from American magazines faster than factories could possibly replace them. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the United States had burned through nearly half its most critical munitions in a matter of weeks. So here is the strategic question that now haunts Washington. What good is winning a war if it leaves you unable to fight the next one? This is the hidden story of the 2026 Iran war, a victory that may have quietly bankrupted the American arsenal. To understand why a regional war broke the American magazine, you have to understand how that magazine was designed. After the Cold War, Pentagon planners built the U.S. military around a simple assumption: future wars would be short, technologically lopsided, and decisive. Desert Storm was the template. Smart bombs replaced mass. Precision replaced volume. Stockpiles shrank, and production lines were trimmed to peacetime efficiency. This logic worked against Iraq and Serbia. It worked barely in Afghanistan. But it was never built to absorb the demands of a sustained, high-intensity campaign against a state with thousands of ballistic missiles, drones, and a network of regional proxies. The Iran war exposed that mismatch with brutal clarity. Each Patriot interceptor costs around $4 million. Each THAAD round, more than 12. The arsenal that won the post-Cold War era was a Ferrari built for a sprint. And Iran turned the conflict into a marathon. The escalation unfolded in layers, and each layer drained American magazines deeper than the last. Phase 1. Israeli strikes in mid-2025 destroyed Iranian radars and command nodes. Phase 2, in early 2026, saw the U.S. join directly. The famous 12-day air campaign that hit more than 6,000 targets, according to estimates cited by Military Watch. Tomahawks flew by the hundreds. B-2s dropped massive ordnance penetrators on hardened nuclear sites. Then came the response. Iran launched waves of ballistic missiles at Israeli cities, U.S. bases in Iraq, Qatar, and Bahrain, and shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. American and Allied air defenses fired constantly. Patriot batteries in the Gulf intercepted salvo after salvo. THAAD systems engaged medium-range threats. SM-3 and SM-6 interceptors launched from Navy destroyers in the Red Sea and Eastern Mediterranean. Every successful intercept saved lives. And every successful intercept emptied another tube that would take years to refill. Here is the part most people miss. The depletion was not a mistake. It was a choice. U.S. commanders knew what each interceptor cost. They knew the production timelines. But the political and strategic logic of the moment overrode the arithmetic. Israel had to be defended. Politically non-negotiable. American bases had to remain operational. Allied confidence had to be preserved. So when Iranian missiles rose, the order was simple. Shoot them down, whatever it takes. There was no cheaper option. You cannot intercept a Shahed-class ballistic missile with a rifle. This is the contrast at the heart of modern American power. Deterrence demands that every threat be met with overwhelming response. But overwhelming response, sustained over weeks, devours an arsenal designed for restraint. The Pentagon, in effect, paid in long-term capability for short-term credibility. And the bill is only now coming due. The numbers, when they leaked, were staggering. According to CSIS analysts Mark Canshin and Chris Park, the United States and its partners expended between 1,060 and 1,430 Patriot interceptors out of a pre-war inventory of roughly 2,330, well over half. THAAD usage approached comparable levels. Precision strike missile stocks fell by 45%. The Wall Street Journal reported that more than 1,000 Tomahawk cruise missiles had been launched, alongside 1,500 to 2,000 high-end air defense interceptors. The Pentagon told lawmakers it had used $5.6 billion of munitions in the first 2 days alone. Total expenditures climbed past $24 billion within weeks. Replacement timelines? 3 to 4 years for Patriot. Longer for THAAD. The Navy is now asking Congress for $7.3 billion just to begin restocking Tomahawk and SM-6 lines. And here is the deeper problem. Production capacity, not money, is the bottleneck. You cannot print missiles. On the surface, the regional outcome looks favorable for Washington. Iran is weaker. Its nuclear ambitions are set back by years. Its proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Iraqi militias, are bruised and cautious. But look closer. Iran survived. Its regime is intact. Its missile production, dispersed and underground, was damaged but not destroyed. And Tehran has learned a strategic lesson it will not forget. Saturating American defenses works. Every salvo costs Washington more than it costs Iran. Meanwhile, the Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire is unraveling. Netanyahu has ordered renewed operations in Lebanon. U.S.-Iran negotiations stalled in late April 2026. Ships are again being seized in the Strait of Hormuz. The Middle East has not stabilized. It has merely paused. And every day the pause continues, American forward-deployed assets remain pinned in the region, unable to redeploy to the theater that matters most to Washington's 21st century strategy. That theater, of course, is the Pacific. And Beijing has been watching every interceptor launch with surgical attention. Chinese strategists have long studied a simple equation. In any Taiwan contingency, the opening 72 hours would consume vast quantities of exactly the munitions America just burned in Iran. Long-range anti-ship missiles, Tomahawks, SM-6s, standard missile interceptors, precision strike missiles. The Wall Street Journal reported in late April that some U.S. officials now openly worry the Iran war has compromised Taiwan contingency plans. Taiwanese defense officials have voiced the same concern publicly. This is the reveal Beijing has been waiting for. For years, Chinese military theorists wrote about the exhaustion strategy, forcing the U.S. to deplete its arsenal in peripheral conflicts before the central confrontation. They did not need to engineer it. America did it to itself. The strategic question now whispered in Zhongnanhai is simple. How long until the window opens? This collides with a doctrine the Pentagon abandoned, but never replaced. The old Cold War standard of being able to fight 2 major wars simultaneously. Today, the United States cannot. 3 scenarios now define the next 24 months. First, rapid mobilization. Congress floods the defense industrial base with multi-year contracts, second-source production lines open, and stockpiles begin recovering by 2028. Possible, but historically slow. Second, the opportunistic crisis. China, North Korea, or Russia tests American resolve precisely while interceptor inventories are thin. A Taiwan blockade, a Korean provocation, a Baltic incident, any could exploit the gap. Third, the frozen Middle East. The Iran war does not end cleanly. U.S. forces remain locked in a low-grade containment posture, consuming munitions at attritional rates while the Pacific waits. Each scenario carries the same underlying logic. The Iran war did not just deplete an arsenal. It depleted strategic flexibility, the most precious resource a global power possesses. Harvard Kennedy School analysis estimated the war's true cost at well above the Pentagon's official $11.3 billion figure for the first 6 days. NPR reported total Pentagon costs approaching $28 billion when forces, munitions, and operations are combined. But dollars are the smallest part of the bill. The real cost is measured in deterrence. Allies in Tokyo, Seoul, Manila, Warsaw, and Canberra now ask quietly whether American security guarantees rest on a magazine that can actually be reloaded. Adversaries calculate, more boldly, that American power has a floor. And that floor is industrial, not technological. This is the contrast that defines the post-Iran war era. The United States retains unmatched military technology, but technology without sustainment is theater. And in great power competition, the side that can produce, replace, and endure is the side that ultimately deters. Victory in Iran was real. So is the strategic debt that paid for it. So what does the 2026 Iran war actually teach us? It teaches that in 21st century warfare, the decisive arena is not the battlefield. It is the factory floor, the supply chain, the contracting office, the munitions depot. America still wins wars. The question now is whether it can afford to win them. It teaches that deterrence is not a posture, it is an inventory. And it teaches that the most dangerous moment in great power competition is not when one side strikes. It is when one side quietly realizes the other has run low. Iran's nuclear program lies in ruins. American interceptors lie in fragments across Gulf skies. And in Beijing, in Pyongyang, in Moscow, strategists are studying the same data the Pentagon is studying and drawing very different conclusions. This conflict was never just about Iran. It was about what remains when the missiles stop flying. And what remains for the first time in a generation is uncertainty.